Thank you very much for the nice introduction and inviting me for sharing my research experience with you all. So today I will be talking about metal 3D printing based on simple wire art additive manufacturing setup. That is, we will see conventional MIG welding, TIG welding, other sources. How we can convert these MIG welding, TIG welding sources.
బ్యాటరీ మార్చాలా?
So how we can convert simple MIG welding or TIG welding sources into metal 3D printing, you will see. And I see so many students are also there. So at the end I will share a few slides where you can build your own 3D printer with some simple arrangement of some small equipments. So last 10 slides is specially for some creative design. So how you can build this metal 3D printers within your workshop or within your welding lab. And initially I will be discussing about stainless steel, especially 316L stainless steel. Then I will be talking about aluminum alloys, and also few slides are there to discuss about the Inconel alloy. So if you see additive manufacturing from past 4 days also you are listening, it is not a very new tech. So it is a layer by layer deposition, and if you see in the nature, it is well established. Like if you see the making of pottery in very olden days, right? So it is also the concept of the same 3D printing, right? And even the nature also, if you see how the plants grow, right? So we can link everything with the 3D printing, but if you want to call it something additive manufacturing, right? So if there is some process, if I want to define whether it is, if you want to understand whether it is additive manufacturing or not, so we have to see whether these 5 points are satisfied or not, right? So the first point is whether there is some kind of joining taking place between the layers. So if we deposit one layer and we are depositing another layer, if there is some joining between these 2 layers, right? So there is some strong metallurgical or mechanical bonding is there or not, right? So if I place 2 bricks one on another, one on the other top, like, so there is no joining taking place, right? If we add some kind of cement or something, then only some joining will be taking place. So whether this joining is there or not, right? So that is the first criteria. Second one is whether this layer by layer deposition we are taking from some 3D model data, right? So we will create a drawing in my, let's say any modeling software, then I will slice this modeling part, then I will deposit in layer by layer fashion, right? So whether it is satisfied or not, and layer by layer approach based on the path strategy we will call, if there is some kind of obstacle or something, or if there is some kind of inclination, right? What kind of support I have to keep, right? So this kind of layer by layer build up approach we will be utilizing. And here it is not subtractive manufacturing, right? So in the machine what we will do, we will remove the material to get the final component, right? Here we are adding the material to get the component. Then we are not doing any forming operation, we are not applying some pressure or something, right? So we are freely depositing the layers and then we will build up. So if these 5 criteria are satisfied, then we can term this process, whatever we build it, like it is additively manufactured component. Then just like our pre-process, build part and post-processing. So this is just to show the same thing in just a schematic way. And there are basically, if you see additive manufacturing classification, there are basically 7 categories are there, right? So with some process we can deposit metals, with some process we can deposit like filaments, like plastics or some kind of fibers. So the first one is powder bed fusion. So powder bed fusion and direct energy deposition are the 2 major processes which are widely used for depositing the metal, right? So either the feedstock, we can melt the powder and deposit, or we can melt the wire and deposit, okay? So in that we can use, for melting the powder, either we can use some kind of heat source. Let's say laser we can use, we are having the laser as a heat source, or we can use arc as a heat source, right? So So for melting the powder, we can use different heat source. Based on that, the classification is laser beam based powder bed fusion, or electron beam also we can use, electron beam based powder bed fusion, and in direct energy deposition also we can use the laser electron beam. Okay. So the fundamental difference I will tell in the next slides. In the powder bed fusion, we will be placing the powder, and at selective regions we will be melting to get the component. In the powder, in the direct energy deposition, we will be coaxially forcing the powder into the laser so that it will melt and deposit to form the component. So here, I think the video is not playing. So if you see, this is the direct energy deposition process on the right hand side. So where we are coaxially feeding the powder onto the laser spot. At the focal point we will be coaxially feeding, and it will melt and deposit at the selected region. So these will be simultaneously controlled by my CNC controller, so that the deposition strategy, based on the deposition strategy, we will be getting the required component in stages. Sorry for the disturbance. powder is spread coaxially onto the laser spot, onto the laser focal point, and then it is melted simultaneously and deposited on the substrate. So we will be maintaining a substrate plate, and the powder which is coming onto the laser will be melted and will be getting deposited onto the substrate. Right? And if we control the movement, either we can operate the nozzle to get the desired component shape, or we can operate the bed, right, depending on the requirement. So in the powder bed fusion, we will be operating the bed to the required dimension. We will be connecting the bed to the CNC controller, XYZ motions. We will see in the end some interesting videos how to get the XYZ motions for different configurations. Then in the direct energy deposition, we will be moving the bed also. We can also move the nozzle simultaneously if we want to build some complex three-dimensional components. So here, wire arc additive manufacturing comes from the DED process. Instead of using the laser as a heat source, we can use the conventional arc welding, right? We know conventional arc welding like TIG welding, MIG welding, right? And then plasma arc welding, cold metal transfer. So these techniques can also be incorporated in the additive manufacturing to melt the wire. Right? In the MIG welding, what is the feedstock? Wire is the feedstock, and it will be acting like an electrode, and we will be melting the electrode and we are depositing. Right? So instead of joining between the two plates, we can deposit simultaneously and make the wire arc additive manufacturing. So this is to show how the wire arc additive manufacturing will look like with different sources. The first one is gas metal arc welding can also be integrated, and instead of depositing one layer, instead of doing one layer joining, we will be continuously repeating the process with some variable Z height and variable D. By varying the XY motions, we can get the metal 3D printing. Then in the conventional MIG based additive manufacturing, if you see what are the additional requirements we require, only the motion of the bed. Right? In the conventional welding, we will place the welding plates on the some kind of workbench, and then we'll be joining the two sheets. Right? So if I want to deposit layer by layer, I have to keep the entire setup on a XYZ, automated XYZ table. So it can have XYZ, and every time after depositing one layer, I will be moving my Z with respect to the requirement of my dimensions. Right? So here we will connect it with the CNC bed. Okay. So if the entire welding equipment is there, we can connect the welding torch to the CNC head, and with the CNC head only we can deposit. And if you see in the conventional MIG welding, so how the droplet is getting detached, how the welding in the welding, how the metal is getting melted and transferred to the base plate, right? So there are so many metal transfer modes, like free flight transfer mode is there, short circuiting is there. I will show some videos so that how we can control the geometry or how we can control the shape of the deposited sample we can see. Right? This is one globular transfer. So globular transfer is nothing but we will be melting the wire till it is getting detached by the gravity. Right? So if the size of the bubble is so high, size of the molten metal bubble is so high that it will automatically get detached from the wire and it will be transferred to the base plate. Right? So if you see, if there is some kind of magnetic arc below, right? If there is heavy metal we have to join, there might be some kind of arc below that may be happening, right? Because of the magnetic field and other things, right? So it may also vary the shape of the bubble. Instead of having the spherical molten droplet, it may little bit have the shoe kind of structure, right? So So let us see this video, how the molten metal droplet is getting detached. This is the globular transfer mode, where the bubble here in this, we can see the bubble is getting created because of the arc, right? And it will be detached from the electrode and it will be transferred to the base plate, completely due to the gravity. We are not controlling it. We can control it in the short circuiting by varying the pulses, right? So we can switch on, switch off the current, we can change the voltage, or we can change the current parameters, and we can input in the cycles so that the detachment will be there. So this is another video to show the short circuiting transfer, right? where the size of the droplet is minimized, right? So if you see, if a big droplet is getting detached and transferred to the base material, right, or workpiece, then we can build the structures in faster way because the deposition rate is higher. But at the same time, if a big bubble is coming and hitting the base plate, it may have some kind of spatter, right? So it may spill out. It may spill out and it may damage the sample also. At the same time, if the big droplet is coming and hitting, so the surface finish of the final component may not be good, right? So depending on my requirement, depending on the complexity of the job, I will be controlling the size of the droplet in order to get a desired component. Okay. So these are some videos to show how the droplet variations are there. So at different current also we can get different droplets, right? At very low voltage we will get a globular transfer. At very high current we will get a spread transfer. In between there are so many variations. If I keep on increasing, there are so many variations we can see, right? So these are some different types. And now there are little bit advancements in gas tungsten arc welding and also gas metal arc welding. We can also move the electrode, right? Instead of the droplet getting detached and getting transferred to the base plate, if I, let's say, vibrate the electrode, or if I, let's say, create some kind of motion to the electrode also, like we are touching the base plate, and once it is touched, because of the surface tension forces, it will be sticking to the base plate only, and we will be retracting my electrode, right? So this can also be done, and then it will actually occurs at very low current, right? So the latest advancement, or we can say the advancement in the MIG welding, is the cold metal transfer, where we will transfer the bubble with respect to the at very low currents, right? And what are the forces we will have? We can have the, like, gravitational force is one, depending on the size of the droplet, right, bubble, or the size of the molten droplet, it will get detached and transferred. Because we are using some kind of shielding gases, because arc welding or any welding process, mostly we will do under the shielding gases only, right? So there is some kind of aerodynamic forces are there. Since voltage and current we are continuously using, some kind of electromagnetic forces might be there, right? So vapor jet forces is also there. Something we are melting and transferring, right? Whenever the hot molten metal is hitting the plate, so there might be some kind of surface contaminants that will be evaporated, and these forces will also act on the droplet, right? And also surface tension forces. When it is sticking to the base plate, then based on that, the size of the width or height will be decided. Okay, so just these are the basic things to understand different forces, how it will operate and how it will control, right? Let's say I am melting aluminum wire, I am melting steel wire, right? The size of the droplet might be different because of the different mechanical properties. At the same time, I will use different currents, welding current, voltage I will be using. At the same time, if I am able to build a component in aluminum in 2 hours, I may not be able in 2 hours in the steel, right? I have to take more time, right? So these are all factors depending on these things. Then this is a table to show where we have to use which type of metal transfer mode and what kind of shielding gas is generally suggested. Okay, and we can also have some kind of pulsing in order to. Pulsing is nothing but we will switch on, switch off, right? We will switch on. Once it is melted, the electrode is melted, we will immediately switch off, right? There is no current that is passing in the electrode. Then the molten metal is detached based on gravity only, but there is no current that is on currently, right? So the droplet will transfer relatively at low temperature compared to the previous case. Okay, so this is the advancement in the cold metal transfer. This is simply advancement of the MIG welding only, metal inert gas welding only, where the electrode movement is also there. The electrode will also have some kind of oscillations, right? The electrode will move initially very closer to the workpiece. Once the arc length is there, arc will be ignited, metal will be melted, right? So the electrode will be melted, and once it is melted, we will immediately retract back. Right? So because of the surface tension forces and at low current, the droplet will be transfer to the. Okay. So here this is only to show what are the variations in the short circuit. There is something called as short circuit in the big welding. We can touch it. Maybe in the conventional welding lab also, if you see, before the arc is ignited, people will be touching the workpiece, right? So once some spark came, then the welding will start, right? So that is short circuiting basically. So we are trying to thermodynamically emit the electrons from the electrode, right? So if I heat the electrode, automatically some electrons will be, because of the heat, the thermodynamic emission will be taking place and some electrons will be coming out. Once electrons coming out, then it will be hitting the workpiece and the arc will be generated. Right? So that process is the short circuit. It is a little bit modification of short circuiting process only. So I will come to the additive manufacturing because I just want to explain how the depositions are happening. Because we are using the conventional arc welding source, how the depositions will be happening. So this is only to show how the welding equipment can also produce the components, different components, right? In the layer by layer, right? So if I control the movement of the nozzle with some kind of CNC head, right? With the simple welding equipment also, we can create this kind of different complex components can be created, right? So this is only one small video that Fronius has developed to promote this technique. So here there is something called as arc length also. We can vary the arc length in order to get different heights, right? So if I want to build 100 mm length or if I want to build 200 mm length, right? If I want to reduce the time that is required for depositing 100 mm, 200 mm, then I can play with some parameters like arc current, voltage and then arc length also. Now coming to the welding based additive manufacturing or wire arc additive manufacturing. Welding based additive manufacturing we can call it because we are using some welding heat source to melt the wire, right? And once it is melted, we are depositing on the substrate, right? So here there are so many process parameters are there and then so many challenges are also there. So every process will have some kind of challenges. Even though it is there, there are some challenges are there, right? So even in the conventional welding also, if I deposit a layer, because of the heat, in the center the heat is more, in the surroundings the heat is less, right? So there might be some kind of distortion of the plate, right? So if you see in the bottom, the distortion might be there. The distortion of the plates is there, right? Then we are depositing layer by layer, right? One layer is deposited, solidified, then another layer deposited, it got solidified. Let's say 100 layer I deposited. So if I see the microstructure from bottom to the top or strength from the bottom to the top, it will be varying, right? It will be varying because we are depositing layer by layer and it is getting solidified based on the environmental condition. At the same time, in the first layer if you see, it is conducting the heat to the base metal. If I see in between some layer, it is conducting the heat to the environment and to the already deposited layer, right? So like that, we will be having some kind of variation in the microstructure. That is another challenge people will be trying to achieve. They can reduce it by doing the conventional heat treatment process, right? So once it is deposited, they will take this sample and put in the furnace and heat it, just like annealing, right? The reheating. They will do some kind of basic process to relieve all these microstructural changes. Then if there is any complex structure, right? Earlier we have seen there are some techniques to control the droplet size, but in the arc welding the minimum droplet size is 2 mm, right? We cannot reduce beyond 2 mm. Once the molten metal is melted, minimum size we can achieve is 2 mm, right? If I want to reduce below 2 mm, I cannot do it, right? If I want to produce a component of 1.5 mm only, I cannot do it, right? So that is another restriction where we can use some kind of very low heat source, let's say like laser brazing or some kind of soldering we can use to get this kind of deposits. Okay. But arc based is not generally suggested. Then there is another challenge, like layer by layer if we are depositing, continuous monitoring of the parameters is difficult, right? Continuous monitoring whether there is any change in the parameters, right? So it is very difficult. And what are different parameters we are having? One is the heat source, what kind of heat source I am using. The other one is tool path, how I am depositing the tool path. Okay. Then In the heat source, we are having voltage, current, then travel speed or wire speed, then different composition, what metal we are depositing, right? What is the diameter of the wire feed rate, then composition of the flow rate, gas flow rate, everything. Okay, these are some parameters, and also geometry is one more parameter where we'll be seeing. Right, if I'm having a triangular shape, right? If I'm having a triangular shape in the 2D, let us assume in the 2D I have to deposit a triangular shape, right? I can deposit like this, layer by layer I can deposit in order to completely fill the triangle, right? Or I can have the triangle, I can fill in the only one direction, like shades, okay? So I will show some slides so that it will be clear. So these are some parameters like power, filler wire, where we are using the filler wire, then gas flow rate, another thing, deposition, thickness, how much deposition thickness we want to achieve, then torch, the distance between the nozzle to the substrate plate, then the path, how we are going to fill the area. So if a rectangle is there, I can fill with smaller rectangles, continuous smaller rectangles, or I can have the continuous vertical lines to fill the rectangle, or I can have the continuous horizontal lines or some kind of inclined lines also. I can fill the rectangle with any kind of pattern, right? So which pattern will give a better quality and dimension, right? So that is also one type of parameter. So this is the slide where we will be discussing the path strategy. If you see, I can fill the, in the case of B, you can see I can fill the rectangle or I can fill the square in the continuous path, right? So I can have the same path in the inclined motion also. I can turn the entire thing into 45 degrees and I can also fill in the same pattern, right? So depending on the complexity of the job, the path strategy will be decided. How the path strategy has to be selected, right? So this is also one kind of research we will be doing. Based on the geometry, we will be dividing the geometry into different layers. Once a layer has to be filled, the path strategy will be decided. Okay? And this will be directly given to the CNC control in the form of a code only. Whatever G codes and N codes you will be studying in the CAD/CAM, the same G codes and N codes we will be using to define the path strategy. Right? So we have seen some challenges in the wire additive manufacturing like distortion and other things. So in order to control, we are also having some kind of quality improvements that are reported in literature. Like we can do some kind of, after one layer deposition, I can do some kind of rolling, right? I can have some kind of rolling process. Then I can deposit another layer. I can have another rolling process like that. They are using some internal cooling techniques they can use, right? So interpass cooling. After each layer, they will apply some kind of gas flow rate to cool the layer immediately, right? They can have some kind of hot forging. They can have some kind of active immersion cooling. They will attach some cooling system and cool the layer immediately, right? So only thing is, they have to extract the heat that is already having in the layer with some technique, right? With some technique where the gas flow rate they will supply, or they may supply some kind of additional cryogenic treatment. In between layers, they will extract the heat. Okay. So what are the key benefits? If you see in the if you see wire arc additive manufacturing, the major advantage is the deposition rate, right? So you might have seen in the literature, or you might have seen in some newspapers, right? There is some kind of bridge that is constructed with the 3D printing, right? Metal bridge that is constructed with the 3D printing. So that has been done with the help of the wire arc additive manufacturing only. So here we can build the structures in number of very few days only, right? Let's say 45 days to 3 months, 6 months, depending on the size of this one, right? So wire arc additive manufacturing basically can build